Alex, what sort of week is this with 8 of your players in Girona?
Challenging one, to say the least. One that I hope that we have to repeat. You know, when we got a couple of late call-ups as well with Rafi and Reedy went to the Scotland squad. Obviously, know about working with John. So there was 2 or 3 there where we didn't feel that we'd have to manage, compensate for. It's great for the lads, and it throws up curveballs for the coaches. So I'm happy to. I've just run off the training field. We changed venues because the pitches were bad, but they've slotted in really well. All the boys, and Daniel Dupree, under no uncertain terms, told them what was required of him this weekend.
You're playing the top team in the league. Should you be playing matches when so many players affecting all the clubs are away at an England squad session?
It happens every year. I think it's 4 matches, we lose them 4, and those with the greater numbers of internationals, as you know, are more affected. Ideally, no. You know, and there's questions around next year's season with the Prem Cup and how we can try and restrict the effect of international players. But you know, I struggle with this because I wear 2 hats. One, first and foremost, is the club. Like, what's best for the club, and rightly saying having all our best players back. The other hat I wear is what's best for the person and the player, and you know, I want them to play international rugby. I want them to be striving to be the best in the country, you know, not the world. So yeah, dead happy, and then it throws up that, it increases the cortisol levels of how you can keep consistency performance, Chris.
And what did you read into that Bath performance? Obviously, it's a hell of a place to go to, and the scoreline doesn't look great. But is that the sort of thing you can shrug off?
Did at half time, didn't it? They were winning at half time. Yes, I think a team that's been playing as well as Bath have, they won't be lacking in confidence, and they lose a lot less than us, as you know. So they're coming pretty stacked, and hopefully they'll underestimate us a bit.
And what would be the keys for you? Obviously, nice momentum, but a lot of the people who gave you the momentum won't be in the team. So a collective feeling of belief is there, but can you translate that with so many changes?
Well, we have, not against as teams as effective as Bath, but you know, Gloucester and Newcastle at home with a largely changed team were still very good performances, bonus point wins. So we evidently are a different outfit at home, and that's something we've got to address long term in the running, but not right now. Like, we just want to keep that home form, home intensity, and kind of welcome them in the Salford Stadium, 2-degree weather, and it's wet, like it's wet in the air up here. So you know, it's not a nice place to come, any team. I want to make sure that's the case again on Sunday.
What can you tell us about Johnny Hill and Racing?
Not a lot, really. I haven't had a lot of communication. I've just shut down any kind of chat around what's happening next week. I did it with a similar philosophy, but with the internationals last week. Like, tried to address it Northampton week, because they were going off to camp for the autumn internationals, and it probably put them off. It probably made a bigger issue than what it was. With Johnny, as you know, a couple of years ago, he was made an overture. I think it was Montpellier or something. And again, what we know is, you know, it's a lot more money, and if his mind's in the same sphere, what's best for him in terms of earnings over the next 2 to 3 years would be to go. It's whether or not he feels a loyalty to the club and to his mates here that overrides the monetary incentive that he's obviously been offered.
And another one came up from also in France, in Nice, for Wasei.
Right. Again, I've got to speak to Wasei. Like, there was something come out in the press in the week, and
Wednesday or Thursday.
It was Wednesday, yeah.
Thursday, Friday, I can't remember.
And it hadn't come from our court. It's just I haven't sat down with him and talked to Wasea. Like he's still got a bit of an injury right now. We're drying his knee out. There's some water on his knee, so he's unable to make a claim to stay here at this point in time. It's just good practice for agents to make sure that they've got options. So I think that must be where the rumour mill, or the spark was, that ignited the rumour mill around us saying that he's good to go. We haven't said that officially, and we haven't said it to Wasea, so, reneging that in terms of what's been put out there press-wise.
There's been some pretty negative reaction to Will Griff getting selected.
Why, by you?
Can you just sort of address that? Because I know that you're a big fan, aren't you?
You'll have to educate me. I don't read much of I only read your stuff, Chris.
Saying that he hardly got a game for Scarlets, and after he hasn't had many starts for Sale, and suddenly he's in the World Squad.
Yes, right. So he hasn't had many starts for us, but when he has, he's performed very well. And against the Stormers was one of those occasions. He's in really tough competition with Asher, who's obviously been selected for the England team. And if you're to look at his performances, how he's moving, not less how he's scrummaging, which is his first priority as a tight head prop, he's playing better rugby than I've ever seen him play. That was preceding his last couple of years where he clearly wasn't happy in the environments he was in. And, when he was here at Sale, he's had a kid, he's matured somewhat, and I don't mean that patronisingly so. He's just found his feet and found his home. I really enjoy working with him. I only had a year with him and he wanted to go and chase that Welsh dream, and in doing so, he lost form. Now, taking that out of, because he was shocked when I spoke to him, when he got called up, he's like, wow. I'm like, no, but it kind of shows the level of his improvements that he's made, and consistency when he has come on. He's come on every week for how he's making that impact. Mike Forshaw was a fan of his when he was here because of his movement, not so much because of his scrummaging, because he knows nothing about scrummaging, Mike Forshaw. And I know he's been asking questions and we've been like playing it down a bit. Yeah, he's going all right, but obviously they watch all the footage. So those that know, those that watch the games, particularly in the position when they need a bit more strength in Wales, have obviously made the right call. I think he's international quality.
And he looks fitter than he has been. From what I see when he went down to Scotland, he looks really sort of on it.
It's just like, I can only put that down to mentality. He's really bought in, coming back in. He was out of a job, basically, and we were in dire need of some injury dispensation, some cover. And then you watch him move in training, and he's probably the best player not to get 50 caps, in my opinion. And that, that's my philosophy, that a happy person makes a great player, and he's clearly happy, even though he's commuting from South Wales still at the moment. Stays up a couple of days a week and goes back down to see his young boy and his baby. So we've got something right with him. He's got something right, probably a meeting in the middle in terms of what he needs out of his life and how we're managing him, training him and playing wise.
The fact he's doing that travelling, and he's got, 2 children now, I mean, mentally he's handling that as well.
Yeah, it's the biggest challenge. Even more so coming in and out of international camp, because you're switching between environments and sometimes mentality, principles, obviously. He's doing it really well. And again, it comes down to his maturity. Like, this is not his first rodeo. Like, he's been in a lot of different training environments, and he's decided that this is the one that he wants to stay in moving forward. And, we'll be very lucky to keep him. I'm pretty certain that we've got plans down the line to extend his contractual requirements here for another season at least. And I'm letting cats out the bag here, aren't I? I can just see Steve. He's got some big plan about unveiling of signings, but yeah, he's one we want to keep.
Great. I'll see you on Sunday. Thanks.
All right, cheers, Chris.
Hey, Al.
Hi, how are you doing? All right.
Yeah, very good, mate. Just keen to hear your thoughts on the kind of Jekyll and Hyde nature of this season for you. Are you any closer to kind of ironing out the reasons as to why you're capable of, superlatives one week and not so much the next?
you can throw my opinion in the hat with the other 10 directors of rugby, can't you? Because it seemingly so everyone's taken a hiding over the last month. And as we know, we spoke about this in the past, I think, like the Christmas period on what has been so far the longest stretch of games is the time where your squad gets stretched and tested. Not just in your mentality as well, because there's a lot of white noise, New Year, Europe, seeing family, and it can detract you from your week-to-week prep. The level of competition is so high that if you get it slightly wrong and you're missing just a few players, then everyone's ended up on a hiding to nothing, like everyone. So at least there's some consolation that we're not alone. Clearly, there's some ironing out to do, Ali. I totally agree with you. And we'll get to that on review when we've got some time in this Prem Cup block during the Six Nations. Because as I say, this week isn't a challenge of away form where most of our defeats and everyone's have come. It's back at home, so we're focused on our kind of home mentality. We try not to separate the two, but there's got to be something in it. The few percentage it gives you with your family watching, with you're waking up in your own bed, obviously has an impact at the weekend.
And you mentioned obviously ahead of this week that Dan Dupree had taken the lead. What was the sort of key messaging from him? Just don't let the absentees be an excuse.
Yeah, pretty much. I think his actual words were "make it count," and he was in reference to some of their effectiveness in R22. The pick and go game. Everyone highlights the super silky skills of Finn Russell, with those long kind of miss passes that he puts in. But that's not why they're the most effective in that area. It's the physicality they possess around the corner and around the ruck. Unless we're able to get not just parity, but use the physical dominance that we have in Europe, which is best place in terms of collision dominance. We're second in the Prem. Unless we use that, and we are going to use it, it's going to be too easy for them in that area. And they're the best in opposition 22 in the Prem at the moment.
How difficult is it in terms of kind of Jonesy alluded to it, that challenge of losing so many key blokes and then having to find that chemistry quite quickly with people who are like dropping in or not been around so much in the recent weeks, and trying to sustain any kind of momentum when you are chopping and changing. How difficult do you find that?
Well, you lose cohesion straight away. Thankfully, these lads who have coming in have had some opportunity at the start of the season, and we blooded them last year. So it's not like they're new into the team. They've been a lot of them through our academy, likes of Toomey, Ty, Raymond, Ethan Kane, all these boys, Ben Bamba, Ricky really stepped up last week. They're the kind of names that you're talking that are filling in. So cohesion's always key, and then obviously the calibre of player, you lose a little bit, just in terms of the consistency of skill execution. Of course you do, but it's also the calibre of personality, which I find the most challenging, because you lose people there who are able to keep everyone else engaged, who can drive the team to respond when things don't go well, but more importantly when they do, keeping the foot on the throat. So we've addressed it without trying to make it, again, bigger than it is. Like, you got to put faith in these boys, and I do have faith that they can put a good performance in. Yeah,
and I guess major the opportunity, because they've got a shot now, haven't they? When they're perhaps getting fewer of those when the other boys are about.
Yeah, we kept the team as consistent as we can, and opportunity's always there, isn't it? I'd love to be able to play a rotational team, but as I say, the competition and where we were, post the autumn meant that we needed to get some results to put us in the running, and we have. This game means that we're in the running, Ali. Like, we win this game, and a good win, we're top four again, which is where we want to be going into the running. So there's the personal opportunity, that's purpose, and then there's the higher purpose of how, as a squad, we get the team to be in a position where we can compete on those last 12 games. All being well, we'll play 12. We've got to get through to lose first as well.
fun and games. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Ali. Elizabeth, new into the
Hello.
forum.
Yeah, I write for Talking Rugby Union. I'm part-time sports journalist. I have been for about 3 or 4 years. Focus on men and women's rugby. But a couple of questions from me were, what have been your main focuses in training this week, and what has impressed you most about Bath this season?
There's always finding Finn factor, isn't there? You know, I think we've probably gone too hard at that in the past. And he's that kind of player. If you put too much emphasis on him, he'll pull you out of line and put people through holes. So, you know, more of a focus of taking things that enable to be good away from him, around him. We look for the edges that we've got statistically, and it is statistically with best teams, but they're like 5th in the league for scrum and maul dominance. We're 3rd. They are like 5th for collision dominance, and we're 2nd, as I've said. So there's the small percentage edges that we focus on as our strengths that we've been, you know, not trying to change everything you do because you're playing a team, and you can overcomplicate and try and outthink and out-strategize. And there's a bit of that which I'm not going to go into, but trying to keep it around what we've traditionally been good of, certainly what we've been a lot better of since the autumn internationals: set piece, physicality, and then, as always, the ability to get the ball back in better areas. That's the strategy.
Awesome, thank you.
Cheers, Elizabeth, thank you. Is that us then? Paul and Mohammed, any questions?
Yeah, I'll chip in with one, Alex. How
Good
are you?
one, yeah, there you go. Are you happy about Wilgriff, John?
Yeah, well, I watched that Storms game. We talked about it last week, didn't we? Because Rod got all the headlines, but as you said, he kept it steady on the other side and allowed Rod to go to work.
Yeah.
So
put some good shots in, and his head was bleeding because he got sunburnt. So he did all that with it. He kept having to come on and put Vaseline on the top of his head, which helps us in the heat, I guess. Not too much because we lost by 40, but still.
yeah, I mean, Wales need a bit of ballast. You're right there. So
yeah.
So it makes. What pleased you most about that Toulon victory, Alex?
You know, it wasn't the result. Like, it was how we in the 2 games previous, we had sustained pressure, and then we suffered a lightning bolt, like a fast break try. And on the back of that sustained pressure, we got very frustrated that we weren't getting outcomes and reward. The pressure of territory and possession wasn't converted into points. And then we probably kind of got a little bit snatching, a little bit desperate in those games, which opened ourselves up on transition. That didn't happen at the weekend. Like, we addressed it as a group, a game drivers group, and you know, we came in at half time. It was a lot more composed than we were against the Stormers, because we weren't doing a lot else wrong apart from scoring points in that first half. And we were like, what we're doing is working. It's getting us the opportunities. The floodgates will open, pretty much verbatim. And thankfully, this time, it came to pass that was the case, because we needed a bonus point win. So it was more around the mentality of negative outcomes and how we responded.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decent achievement as well to get through into the last 16 hours, because we know, there aren't many easy fixtures now. You just look at Treviso in there for the first time.
Yeah, I have a lot to do. Not a lot to do, but I have more to do with them than most teams. I'm good friends with Marco Bortolami, and Fabio Ongara is a close friend. So, like, we converse over games they have coming, because we have a lot more intel and analysis on the Premiership teams. And adversely, they'll. If I wanted to, I haven't. But if he wanted to, he'd give me the information on how they beat Bath. Because they've only lost a few, Bath, haven't they? So, not a massive surprise that because at home and strategic, they're a very well coached team. It's largely the Italian team, and you go down there and you can underestimate them, I think, at your peril. But as you said, look, was it Bath and Bristol? Well, they had that group of death that we had last year, didn't they? They had La Rochelle and Leicester. So I can understand how they feel. Good a team as they are, but there's some very good teams that haven't gone through. Last year we couldn't really go for it with the same vigour that we did this year, and that was because of the season setup. But this year, as soon as we came out the international, said, like, we're going for this, like, we're going for everything. I think that's reflected in our selection, and obviously the intent that they had at the weekend, it was important to them. They wanted to get through.
Yeah, exactly. They showed that. And the patience was 0-0 for a long time, wasn't it? But you didn't, even though you needed those 4 tries, they didn't sort of go off script.
No, they didn't. The hardest try to score was the one that we did score, wasn't it? Like, it was an unbelievable try, that. There was loads more occasions where we should have just dotted it down. And I said to Dan, we scored an easy one in the second half from a maul to Bevan Rod, heads up rugby, the short on the blind side, and it's a two-phase try. And I'm like, Deeks, why? Surely we just got to take more of those. And he's like, I'd like them all to be easy, Al. So we're focused on taking the easy opportunities this week. Hopefully we'll get some.
Yeah, and given the changes you've got to make, I mean, you've got 8 in the England squad now, haven't you? You've got 4, I think. Does it? I mean, Chris alluded to earlier. I mean, does it devalue the game at all? With only 18 matches now in the Prem season, Alex?
Yeah, it does. It does a bit. Yeah, of course it does. But this is not unusual in my coaching career, and I'd much rather be in this situation than the lads not getting recognised for their efforts.
Yeah. And lastly for me, do you expect a few to be called up by England Day next month as well?
I hope so. Yeah, Carps is in the wider EPS squad. Ben Bamber continues to want to achieve at that level, and I think they just wanted to look at other people in the autumn. Rafi, who's been pulled into the squad, but they've still got, unless he can fight his way in there this week, a couple of scrum halves who are in the higher at the pecking order, from my understanding. Who else? Maybe Johnny. He was playing well. I know he was on the fringe of those. Having spoken to both, kind of fourth choice, fifth choice lock.
Dugdale? Dugdale?
Yeah, that'd be nice. He hasn't had much game opportunity, and he's fuming at me for that. But he's in probably one of the strongest back rows, along with Bath.
Yeah. In
the Premier, back 5. Yeah. You'll see him this weekend. He's pumped for it. He's been belting people yesterday. So.
I mean, as you said, that is the one thing about it. It gives an opportunity to someone who've been kicking their heels for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, like that again. There's a challenge, like what Ali was talking about, because they haven't played, and normally you can get some confidence through game time, and they haven't had that. So we've been working on how they can get the right mentality, what their extras look like in training, post session, how they can step in and demand a leadership role when they haven't been in the position of leading. All of these things, we've got a fast track in a week.
Yeah, and defence. I mean, at Bath earlier on, when you after the game, not the happiest I've ever seen you.
Oh, that was a watershed, kind of pivotal moment for us as a club, and the repercussions of us addressing the coaching structure and how well we can coach are still being felt. Like, we're still not properly settled, but I think, defeats like that always defeats force change, and if you're open to change, then it's always good. But not a happy time.
No.
Not happy. It's not something I want to do, but it's what sport requires, isn't it? It's constant improvement.
Yeah, exactly. Evolution. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thanks, Paul, mate. Cheers, pal. Thank you.